The queen's fury still echoed through the palace, but miles away, the world couldn't have looked more ordinary. A crowded marketplace bustled with laughter, haggling voices, and the hiss of roasting food. Nobody there cared about the alarms thundering in the royal spires above. Nobody except one scarred, tired man who had sworn long ago that he would never get involved in anyone else's fight. His name was Kale. Once a soldier, now a drifter, he was a kind of man who blended into a crowd, until today, because in his arms, curled like kittens against his chest, were two alien children. They weren't human. Their hair shimmered with silver-blue strands, their skin carried faint golden markings, and when they breathed, the air around them seemed to hum. The marketplace had noticed, and whispers followed him like a storm. Kale had tried everything. He nudged the kids awake. He muttered, "All right, little ones, show me where you belong." But they only snuggled closer, stubbornly refusing to move, as if his heartbeat were the only lullaby they trusted. It would have been funny, if not for the fact that half the market was now glaring at him like he had stolen royal treasure. A fishmonger spat into the dust. Human carrying the queen's spawn? That's treason. A merchant hissed, "Better run, stranger. You don't keep what isn't yours." Kale sighed, dragging a rough hand over his jaw. Wonderful. Out of all the alleys in the city, I had to walk into this one. That was when the first armored guards appeared, their crystalline spears glinting in the noon sun. The crowd scattered instantly, leaving Kale standing in the open, holding two princes who refused to let go of him. The leader of the guard pointed at him. "Human, by order of Her Majesty, surrender the royal heirs at once." Kale raised his eyebrows. "Her what now?" He looked down at the kids, who finally stirred awake, blinking wide luminous eyes. And then, to the guard's horror, one of them mumbled drowsily, "Don't hurt him. His hours." Silence gripped the marketplace. Even the guards froze, their weapons lowering just an inch. The princes had chosen. Kale didn't know it yet, but that simple moment would alter the fate of kingdoms. For the queen, it would be humiliation. For the court, it would be scandal. And for Kale, who only wanted a quiet, anonymous life, it would be the beginning of a war he could no longer walk away from. As the guards surrounded him, Kale muttered under his breath, "Perfect. Just perfect. I saved kittens. I saved strays. And now I've apparently adopted royalty. My luck's getting worse by the hour." But the princes only clung tighter. And when the guards tried to pull them away, the children's luminous markings flared with light, choosing him again, loudly, undeniably. The queen's roar may have shaken the palace, but here, in the dirt of the market, a different kind of storm had begun. The palace didn't sleep, but it had never been this awake. The queen's command had split across her empire like a blade of sound. Every outpost, every whisper network, every silent hole of the court had heard the same words, "Find my sons. Bring me the human." But no one moved faster than Queen Azhira herself. Her throne room was a cathedral of crystal and living stone, carved by generations of telekinetic artisans. The walls pulsed with a dim violet glow, the color of fey. Courtiers and generals stood in silence at the base of the dais, waiting for their ruler to speak. She didn't. Not yet. Azhira stood tall, cloaked in obsidian armor grown from her own body. Lines of gold pulsed under the surface of her skin like molten veins. Her eyes, usually the serene silver of moonlight, were streaked with burning crimson. The High Sea approached carefully. "Your Majesty, we tracked the signal of the prince's genetic markers. They are alive." Azhira did not breathe. "Where?" A long pause. The sea almost choked on the words. "In the South Market District, with other human." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Some of the younger nobles flinched. They still remembered the last time the queen's rage had been this sharp. An entire war fleet reduced to dust and drifting embers. And that had only been over a diplomatic insult. This was her blood. General Roven stepped forward, his armor shifting from blue to gunmetal black in submission. "Our forces have surrounded the location. The heirs will be recovered within the hour." Azhira finally moved. One slow step down the dais. "Alive, unharmed. If a single hair on their heads is disturbed, I will erase the district myself." No one doubted her. But General Roven hesitated. "And the human?" The queen didn't answer immediately. She was a strategist, not a savage, but motherhood had teeth. Bring him. I will decide whether he leaves my palace breathing. A ripple of unease passed through the room, but no one questioned her. No one ever did. Meanwhile, in the market, Kale was having the worst afternoon of his life. He had faced raiders, smugglers, wild beasts twice his size, but nothing compared to alien toddlers with royal tempers. One of them, the one with the shorter hair and bright eyes, had decided his shoulder was a perfectly acceptable throne. The other kept poking his ear and asking if humans could climb walls. "I don't climb walls," Kale muttered. "I climb away from trouble." "Then why didn't you run?" the first prince asked, genuinely confused. "Most people run from us." Kale snorted. "Kid, I didn't even know what you were." The guards kept a tight circle around him as they marched through the city, but no one dared touch him again. Not after the princes had bared their teeth, small but glowing, and hissed something in a native tongue that made two soldiers nearly faint. If Kale had any sense, he would have escaped before backup arrived. But he had made a mistake. He'd gotten attached in under an hour. He glanced down at the smaller prince, whose fingers were tangled in his jacket. "You sure your mother's not going to blast me into atoms?" Both boys grinned the same wicked grin. "She might," one said cheerfully, "but we'll tell her not to." And Kale, for the first time that day, wasn't sure if that made him feel better or absolutely doomed. The palace gates didn't open. They parted, like the jaws of some ancient, sleeping beast. Guards lined the entrance in silent rows, their living armor shifting shades in response to the queen's rage pulsing through the halls. Even the air tasted metallic, as if the entire structure was holding its breath. Kale stepped inside surrounded by soldiers, but no one dared restrain him. Not because they respected him, but because the princes were still glued to him like over-affectionate barnacles. One held his hand. The other refused to get off his shoulder. "I'm starting to think you two planned this," Kale muttered. "We did not plan a kidnapping," the older prince said proudly. "We planned an adventure." "That's somehow worse," Kale said. They entered the throne chamber before he could convince either child to walk on their own. The room was less a hall and more a galaxy carved into stone, high ceilings glowing with constellations, marble veins of light swirling underfoot, and a throne that looked like it had been grown from the bones of stars. And on that throne sat Queen Azhira. Up close, she was even more terrifying. She didn't just look like royalty. She looked like a force of nature wearing a body out of courtesy. Her hair shimmered like molten obsidian, cascading down armor that pulsed with restrained violence. The floor itself dimmed under the weight of her presence. The guards knelt instantly. Kale did not. Not out of defiance. He just didn't know the protocol, for "I accidentally adopted your alien children." Azhira didn't look at him first. Her gaze locked on her sons, and for a heartbeat, the fury in her eyes flickered with something dangerously close to relief. Then she saw where they were sitting. Her voice came out low and sharp. "Get down from him. Now." Both princes froze. Kale gently nudged the one on his shoulder, whispering, "Maybe listen to your mom before she vaporizes me." But instead of obeying, the smaller prince slid down Kale's back and calmly took his hand again. Multiple guards made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a prayer. Azhira rose from the throne. "I do not repeat myself," she said. "You didn't have to," the older prince replied. "We're not disobeying. We're staying." That was the moment the gasp stopped, because even breathing felt dangerous. Kale cleared his throat. "For the record, Your Majesty, I didn't steal your kids. They kind of latched on." Azhira's eyes snapped to him. They were bright as a blade drawn in anger. "Human, you stand in my hole wearing my son's trust-like armor. Choose your next word with precision, or they will be your last." Kale raised both hands slowly. "Look, I don't know your customs, your politics, or why your toddlers glow like festival lanterns when they are mad. But I'm not your enemy." Silence. Then the younger prince tugged at his mother's sleeve. "He didn't let anyone hurt us. We slept because he felt safe." Safe. The word landed heavier than a weapon. Azhira's jaw clenched, not in anger, but in calculation. Something in the room shifted, like the palace itself was waiting to see what she'd do next. For the first time since they vanished, the queen hesitated. No one spoke for several seconds, because no one wanted to be the one who inhaled wrong and set the queen off. The princes stood beside Kale like loyal puppies guarding their chosen human. Queen Azhira stayed on the lowest step of her dais, still as a sculpture carved from fury. Then the council arrived. They entered like vultures in silk, 4 elders and 2 generals, each one wearing the stiff posture of someone ready to blame someone else. The first to speak was Lord Varel, an older advisor whose voice always sounded like he was mid-sneer, even when he wasn't trying. "Your Majesty," he said with a bow, "it is obvious the human is responsible for their disappearance. Perhaps he was hired, perhaps coerced. His motives must be—" "He didn't take us," the younger prince interrupted, yawning like this was a boring school argument. "We climbed into his bag because his food smelled good." Kale blinked. "Wait, that was why." The boy nodded proudly. "You had pastries." "This is what I get for sharing breakfast," Kale muttered. A few guards nearly broke formation, trying not to laugh. Lord Vile looked like he wanted to collapse through the floor. Queen Azhira slowly turned to her council. "My sons were not abducted. They wandered, and they chose a protector." The room absorbed that like a slap. One of the generals, a scarred woman named Commander Risa, stepped forward. "With respect, Your Majesty, humans are unpredictable. We cannot risk." "We are all unpredictable when someone threatens our blood," Azhira cut in. "Do not mistake humanity for weakness." Kale wasn't sure if that was an insult or a compliment. Lord Vile tried again, his tone knife-thin. "Even if he did not intend harm, keeping him here is a danger to our image. The courts across the Alliance are already whispering that humanity has infiltrated our line." "Infiltrated," Kale repeated. "I was eating bread." The older prince nodded. "He gave us jam." "Unforgivable," Kale added dryly. Commander Rice's mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. Azhira turned her attention back to Kale. "You say you did not seek them. Very well. But how did you keep them calm? Why did they touch you at all?" Kale shrugged. "Kids are kids. Doesn't matter the species. They know when someone isn't going to step on them." The queen's gaze sharpened, like she was examining a weapon she hadn't expected to find useful. Before anyone could speak again, the chamber door slammed open. A soldier, armor flickering red with distress, dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty, the outpost near the Gene Vault was attacked. The enemy left no survivors, and they carried Rexian steel." The name hit harder than a shout. Rexians were mercenaries, brutal, precise, and expensive. They didn't raid children's vaults unless someone powerful paid them. The princes went silent. Kale watched the queen's expression change. Not panic, not shock, calculation. "Seal the palace," she ordered. "Double the guard, and find out who gave our enemies access to our bloodline records." Then, abruptly, her gaze flicked back to Kale. "You will not leave," she told him. "Not until I know who wanted my sons gone, and why they survived only with you." Kale raised an eyebrow. "So, that's a maybe on killing me." No one laughed, but a few of the guards looked like they wanted to. Azhira didn't answer. She simply turned and ascended the dais. But the princes didn't follow her. They stayed with him, and that, more than anything said aloud, shifted the ground under everyone's feet. The palace was locked down within minutes. Hallways that usually shimmered with calm light now glowed a hard amber, a warning color. Guards doubled at every entrance. Every window sealed like the fortress was holding its breath. Kale didn't get a tour. He got babysat. 2 guards escorted him and the princes through a series of spiraling corridors toward what they called Containment Wing. He didn't love the word, but the kids were relaxed, so he didn't fight it. The room they entered looked more like a guest suite than a prison. Smooth walls, floating lights, even a curved window overlooking the city below. Kale tested the door. It didn't budge. "Containment," he muttered. "Fancy word for you're not going anywhere." The taller prince hopped onto a couch that shifted to fit his shape. "Mother won't kill you," he said matter-of-factly. "Not yet." Comforting. Kale deadpanned, sitting on the floor instead of the ornate seat across from him. The younger one was tracing shapes on the glass. "Do all humans smell like fire smoke and sleep?" "I don't smell like," Kale paused. Okay, I might, but that's from travel, not personality. Before the boys could invent more observations, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then the room went dark. A faint hum rippled through the palace, low, sharp, wrong. Kale didn't know alien security tech, but he knew the sound of a systems breach. He stood immediately. Is this normal? He asked. Both princes stiffened at the same time. The older one whispered, No. A heartbeat later, the alarm began. Not the loud, public kind. The subtle kind meant only for palace defense. Kale moved fast, military instincts overriding diplomacy. He closed the distance to the window and scanned the sky. At first, nothing. Then a shadow broke through the cloud line. Not a ship. Several. Small. Fast. Built for insertion, not war. The younger prince's markings flared gold. Those aren't ours. Kale looked around the room. No weapons. No exits except the sealed door. He turned to the boys. If this is a rescue attempt, they are doing a terrible job. It's not a rescue, the older one said quietly. It's a retrieval or a cleanup. Kale didn't like the sound of that at all. Then something slammed into the palace. The floor trembled. Kale rounded on the door. Can you open that? The younger prince shook his head. The older one closed his eyes, touching the wall. After a pause, he whispered, The systems aren't listening to us. Someone blocked our access. Sabotage. From inside. Figures. Kale scanned the room again. Any other exits? No, the boys said in unison. Fantastic. He moved to the far wall and tested its strength with a hard shove. Nothing. The guards outside were shouting now. Orders. Panic. Weapons clashing. The princes watched him closely, not scared, just waiting. Kale dropped to one knee in front of them. Listen, if someone's coming for you, they're not walking in here to offer candy. If things go sideways, you stay behind me and do exactly what I say. Got it? The younger one blinked. You're not leaving. Kid, I couldn't shake you off with a crowbar. A small smile flickered across his face. Then the wall to their left exploded inward. Not the door, but solid stone. Dust and light filled the room as figures in matte black armor poured through the breach. Kale didn't think. He launched himself at the closest one. And the princes? Their eyes lit up like suns, because their protector had just declared, without words, that whoever came through that wall would have to get through him first.